one bite from a carrot change your life? I'm here to tell you it's possible. Stay with me until the end for a little challenge. This is One Bite is Everything, the podcast where you can have a big impact on your health, your community, and the planet through tiny informed choices, or in this case, one bite of a carrot. It's the place where we unpack some really big concepts in bite-sized way that have an impact on your life. You see, what I've learned is that every small action counts, and that being informed can transform your life and your community. After years of asking questions of wildly different sources, from farmers and homesteaders to policymakers and thought leaders, I've made it my mission to help you navigate the complexities and concerns that modern living poses by connecting you to questions with answers, problems with actions, and surprising insights that will keep you curious. Betsey Zarko grew up in Idaho, where the rocks in the soil outnumber the cows and the potatoes. She met her husband online and uprooted from the gem state, makes sense with all the rocks, and settled down in McKenna County, Illinois, some 1,500 miles from home. She brought with her a ton of spunk, some firm ideas, and a nostalgia from home that influenced the name of her farm.
Arrowleaf Prairie Farm. We conceived the idea because arrowleaf balsam root is a native flower of the West. It looks like a compact sunflower, and it blooms on the mountainside where I grew up.
Arrowleaf Prairie Farm spans over 10 acres, where Betsey raises hogs, pasture-raised poultry alongside a laying flock, and a 1-acre vegetable plot. Betsey initially resisted the idea of being a hog farmer. Here's why.
Because my name is Betsey, and I'm not going to be Betsey Lou, the hog farmer's wife. So I was like, no, that's my line. I'm not doing it. Hogs are messy. Growing up, they were the only animal we didn't raise. It was hard to conceive what agriculture could look like because of the ranching community that I was growing up in. It was hard to imagine anything other than cattle ranching as far as agriculture. And in central Idaho, where I grew up, there's just not dirt. Like, you're growing your vegetables in rocks. I cannot tell you the number of rocks I picked as a kid, and my parents are still picking rock out of that garden. It's totally different than Illinois. We dug a hole 2 feet deep before we hit a rock this last spring.
Now, from 60 miles outside of Chicago, Betsey's rock-free produce finds its way to customers through roadside stands, markets, and a CSA, community-supported agriculture program, while also marketing hog products directly to consumers, selling whole and half hogs.
It's a passion of mine to eat as close to my door as possible. A nutrient-dense food that is economically feasible, right? I do have 6 kids, so knowing how much it costs to feed a family is something that really drives what we're doing here, and being able to share that with the community. So really the vision is save this piece of land from urban development as the suburbs of Chicago continue to sprawl into this great farmland.
In the most recent USDA census that reported on data collected from 2017 to 2022, over 20 million acres of farmland were lost, much of it to development. This is a big issue that many farmers are concerned about, non-farmers too. Concerns include development and also who is buying the land, from billionaire investors to foreign countries. We will address this growing concern in a future episode.
This dirt that we're on in McKenna County is known throughout the world as being the world's best soil. Most places has 107% productivity, which is almost unheard of.
Just a second here. Soil productivity is not the same everywhere, right? Maybe you don't think about that. But remember, in Idaho, where Betsey grew up, the soil was full of rocks. That's a factor. To come up with a PI, or productivity index, soils are evaluated by their textures, depth, drainage, and other factors that impact productivity over time. Most PI systems give ratings to each soil, data maintained by USDA NRCS, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which can be used to map soil types within a field.
So managing the soil in such a way that this 10 acres becomes a hub of producing food for the community. And whether that is one of our kids that carries that on into the future, or being able to hand it off to somebody else where it's set and ready to go. They aren't going through the years of cleaning it up, building the infrastructure. They could just take it and continue on producing good food with it.
For some farmers, being within shooting distance of an urban population with enthusiasm for fresh produce, like Chicago, is important to the success for the business. But Betsey has different ideas. And when you talk about growing food for your community, does it include the city?
I primarily do not include that. I know there's pieces of dirt closer. And if we could just serve our close communities, I think that's ideal. More and more, I have thought, we are closer than others that are driving in. I look at some of the farmers markets in Chicago and I see there's lots of people from Michigan and Indiana that are coming in. So they're driving several hours to get to those Chicago markets. Is that sustainable ecologically? Maybe us farms that are a little closer do need to start moving in to the city and serving that population as well. Mm-hmm. I don't have a clear answer for that.
So your community, your customers, tell me about them, what you know about them, and what your interaction is with your community of customers.
I've thought about this a lot this summer as I've developed more relationships with farms like ours. And there's a lot of this talk, right? We hear it on social media and podcasts about creating culture and community around food. And I 100% believe in that. There is nothing like a good meal and, fire to bring people close together. I think that farms like ours are trying really hard to build this community based on this product that we're selling, right? And we kind of see that with, I'm going to pick on Stanley a little bit. There's this community and culture over the Stanley Cup, and who has it. And now we're picking fun at it too, but we're all walking around with them. And where we started from is almost the flip of that, where we already had community. We had a community built. So when we said, hey, we're buying this farm, they were like, what can we buy from you? We hadn't even unpacked. And we were like, we're here for you. What are you growing? What can we buy? We are so into this. Let's do this thing. So that was our first base of customers, right? When I had the first year growing, we had been an LLC for maybe a month. And I saw that I had way more squash than I needed for my family for the year. I knew how much it took to get my family through to the next growing season. And I could tell that I had excess. And so I just offered my packed boxes of squash. Like, here's a bulk box of squash. This is about what your family would need from December to April at a bulk price. And so that's where we started from. From there, working with social media, having a farm stand and developing relationships in the market, we've been able to grow that community out. But it's on the same things. More often than not, Dina, I end up standing at the top of my driveway for an hour talking to somebody about food systems, or we run a homeschool co-op in our community, and we have customers coming to our homeschool co-op now because we are, as people, hungry for good food, but we are hungry for community.
Local family farm successes depend on the quality of community built around their food. It is a co-creative, symbiotic relationship between the farmer and the customer that needs to be cherished, not only to keep family farms thriving, but for the health and wellness of those purchasing the food. As a society, we have lost the connection between us and our food and farmers.
So what Betsey is trying to achieve here is not only beneficial to keep people fed and nourished, but also in terms of creating more connection and thoughtfulness around how we feed ourselves and our families.
So that's how we started. And that's how I hope to continue to grow, that we have actual relationships where we can ask people, hey, did you actually like those tomatoes? Like, tell me about it. Let's change this. Like, hey, what is your budget like at home? Is there a way that we can work with you? Maybe you could come volunteer at the farm for a discount on a CSA share, right? So that we really are partnering closely with our consumers.
And what are you hearing from them? Have you had any shifts based on their input?
No, I think I've been encouraged more than anything. I've heard like, I never thought a green bean could be so good, or I've never seen a beet like this. Your carrots are amazing. I didn't know they could taste like this. And my 12-year-old son, one day he said, I don't understand. Everyone keeps talking about how great these beets are, how awesome these carrots are. They've never seen Swiss chard like this, but this is just our whole life. Like, I didn't know all this stuff was special. So it's really a blessing to be able to share like good food. I tell people, they'll come up to my stand at the market and say, I don't really like vegetables. And I'll tell them it's because you're eating bad vegetables. If you eat lettuce from the store, it tastes like bleach to me. I can't remember what it was that my kids were eating. It was from the store and they're like, this is like a sponge. Like, why did we buy this? Why do we have this? This tastes like sponge. This isn't food, Mom.
How do we get more people to understand that when their food comes from a farm that's got the dedication to their soil crops, that it goes from there to me in, let's call it 250 miles or less? The flavor factor and the nutrition factor goes up. Is this what we have to do just little by little on a local scale, or how do we bring awareness to that really important aha moment?
Yeah. How do we help people understand that we're treating the soil as a living being, not as a placeholder for nutrients that we're just going to input on it? I tell people all the time, I'm growing varieties that I've found that my family loves. So my husband, we always pick on him. He doesn't like beets. They taste like dirt to him. But I've grown all these different varieties and found the ones that taste the least like dirt, and I grow them all for him. And the kids don't care either way. Actually, one of my kids asked for beets for dinner, and I took all of my husband's beets to market, not thinking they would sell and I'd be bringing them back. And I sold them all. Sorry, they're gone. I'm growing varieties that aren't going to pack and ship and hold on the store shelf for a month before somebody buys them. I'm growing ones that are harvested that day and sold that night at market. I'm growing them for flavor because I've spent 10 years figuring out what a 3-year-old will eat on the table and what I can still grow easily. I have 6 kids. I have a busy life. If something is a really fussy vegetable, it just can't hang out here. So it still has to be pretty easy to grow. I do fuss over my leeks. I think that's worth it. When I eat a leek, I go get it from the garden and I eat it. I don't harvest it, wash it, pack it in a box, put it on a refrigerated truck it 2,000 miles, leave it on the store shelf for a week, and then expect it to taste the same as the one that I just picked out of the garden. We had comments from customers that our potatoes tasted different. Potatoes, to me, that just seems like such a blank canvas.
There's not only a difference in taste when food is eaten fresh and hasn't been sitting on a truck or in a shipping container for days or weeks. There's a higher level of nutrients too. Over time, due to exposure to air and light and temperature changes, some of the nutrients degrade. So the best way to get the most nutrients out of your food is to eat it as soon as you can after it's been harvested. And you can do that most easily from a local farmer's market.
I had older people buy carrots for me, and they texted me and said, these are what carrots tasted like when we were a kid. And I was like, well, one, that's such a privilege to be able to, just imagine that flood of memories that came back for them when they took the bite of that carrot. And then being able to serve a carrot, to grow a carrot that tastes like carrots, right? They don't taste like bleach. It's not like eating a sponge, right? So how do we educate that? Maybe it is just little by little, making our food accessible, sharing that knowledge. We've lost that connection with food, right? That the stuff can be grown closer, that it tastes different when it's closer. It tastes different when you eat it at the right time of year. You know, we have a thing in our house that we don't buy strawberries in winter. Strawberries are summer. My kids know that. We'll look longingly at them at the grocery store, but we just don't eat them. We know they don't taste the same. So it's not worth the carbon footprint to get them to us so that we can eat a red sponge.
Tell me, if I wake you up in the middle of the night, what you would tell me your biggest challenge or worry is about your farm.
Without bringing myself to tears, I would say my biggest challenge is farming while female. And I would say that that's because I'm a mother. My biggest concern is losing my kids along the way, like ruining that relationship, burning us out, and being distracted. So I guess it's the working mother syndrome, right? So the farm maybe not being a success and in the end not being worth it, feeling like, oh, I wasted all those years weeding somebody else's leeks when, you know, maybe we should have been a little slower. So that is something that we're always working on, trying to make sure we're striking the balance, doing our best to have good systems in place so we have time to play every afternoon. We're big fans of working early in the morning and being done by 1 or 2 so we have time to play and enjoy each other's company. We have oak savanna on our property and all the kids say, all of them, like, if we don't have baby oaks off this generation of oaks, there won't be oaks for our kids. And that's their observation. So if you came to our farm, you would see tomato cages dotted all over the place. And it's annoying, but the tomato cages are where the kids have found an oak when they're out playing. And they run and grab a tomato cage and they put it around the baby oak so we know it's there. And we don't hit it with the mower, or we, you know, keep the goat away from it to make sure that it's there. They know if we don't do something right now, then it won't be here for the next generation. There won't be any oaks left. There won't be farmland left. It'll be paved over. It'll be little houses, and there won't be farmland anymore. So I'm pretty sure it's worth the work. I convinced myself of that when I wake up in the night. And it does help since my kids are motivated and my kids are into it. I don't always want to go out there and work either. It's not fun when it's 30 below and you're loading pigs when your face is getting windburned, or when it's 102 and you're out harvesting because you have to. That's not fun times. But on the whole, when we look back and see what we've accomplished, then it's like, oh yeah, that was no big deal. That was fine.
All that work, it's worth it. Betsey is feeding her family and fueling her economy with food, and also with thoughts about how we can be more connected with our food, its sources, and build a community around that. It's a knitting together. It's connection. And if we want to be purely selfish about it, it just tastes better. Who doesn't want that?
I love food. I love food so much that I grow my own so that I can have like the exact flavors that I want. I love food. I really love it. I love cooking. I love food. I love chocolate and coffee.
Food that tastes better, fuels your body, connects your community, is better for the environment, and is an investment in economic development on a local level. It just sounds so easy. I want to see if you're ready for a little challenge. It's a tale of 2 carrots. I want you to go and get some carrots from your supermarket. The ones that come in a plastic bag that don't look like they've ever seen a lick of dirt. Or maybe those little teeny tiny baby carrots. Then get some carrots from your farmer's market. Try them side by side and report back. I'm going to do the same. We can compare notes. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes where you can send me a little message about your taste test. This is One Bite is Everything, where sometimes we're taking a bite of a carrot, and other times we're taking a bite of a concept that we want to unpack a little bit. Today, it's both. And no matter what kind of bite it is, we are having an impact on our health, our taste buds and our joy, our communities, our economy, and the planet. You can feel it. Those invisible lines that reach from that carrot to the world. It makes a difference. So I'm glad you're here for it. Make sure you subscribe to One Bite is Everything in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. Big and little ideas that pack a punch are coming your way, one bite at a time. I'm your host, DiPrima. See you next week.